Welcome back to the Newport Gulls pregame show. This is the Broadcasters Roundtable. I'm joined once again by the publicist from the Newport Gulls, Matt Tonis, and the voice of the Ocean State Waves, Tim Scott. Matt, we'll start with you. Last night, winner go home for the Newport Gulls, and very similar to Game 2 last year from this squad. One huge run-scoring inning was the difference in this ballgame.
Yeah, well, it does remind me of one of my favorite quotes throughout history. Mark Twain once said, "History does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme." And this series through 2 games is rhyming very, very well with last year. Newport Gulls dropped Game 1 at home to Ocean State and then bat around in an inning, and that inning is the deciding factor in Game 2, heading back to Game 3 at Cardines Field. So Newport came out swinging. They came out good with the bats. Quinn Brody was great on the mound. Limited damage very well, which is something that Newport has struggled to do a little bit towards the end of this season, but hopefully they're back to doing that. Troy DeLeon gave up 2 home runs in the 9th inning, but the game was well out of reach at that point, and Newport looking forward to putting on a good show, Game 3.
Tim Scott, last night for the Ocean State Waves, costly errors were a part of that loss in that ball game, and the story of that loss in that ball game. Tony DeBrill throwing a ball away, letting the first 2 runs come in to score. One of those runs ended up being earned, but a lot of bad hops in that big 7th inning for the Ocean State Waves. A lot of tough errors on top of walks by Tony DeBrill, the starter, really cost them that ball game.
Yeah, as you mentioned, there are a lot of stuff going wrong for the Ocean State Waves. But today, though, the Ocean State Waves have a solid hurler on the mound in Ryan Gray. Walks will probably be at a minimum tonight. Tony DeBrill, though, has been a guy who either has walked a lot of batters or he struck out a lot of batters. He struck out 6 guys in the ball game. But all in all, it was just a combination, as you mentioned, there are a lot of bad breaks in that 7th inning especially that resulted in loss.
Pitching was at a premium last night for both squads. Quinn Brody threw very well. Tony DeBrill, up until that 7th inning, was throwing very well. Both guys putting up zeros in almost every inning that they threw. Tony DeBrill had the big inning. Quinn Brody gave up the 1 run. Gave up the 1 run in that, I believe it was the 3rd inning. It was the 3rd inning of that ball game. Pitching tonight is going to be stellar. Colton Hawk, only 1 hit the Ocean State Waves in part 1 of that night game of the day-night doubleheader last week. And Ryan Gray pitched stellar against the Newport Gulls here at Cardines Field.
Yeah, Ryan Gray was excellent in that Game 1 in a 7-0 Ocean State win. In Colton Hawk's last 2 starts, he's gone 11 innings and struck out 10 batters. Or 12 innings and struck out 11 batters. He's been stellar in his last 2 outings against Ocean State and on the road in Holyoke against the Valley Blue Sox. Hopefully for the Newport, he can continue that hot streak. That Valley game was his first ever collegiate win, and I think he's feeling really good after that, just trying to continue this role that he's been on. If both guys can pitch the way they're capable of, I don't see very many runs crossing the plate tonight in a very low-scoring game.
Tim Scott, the Ocean State Waves, the number 4 seed here coming into tonight's game. Backs against the wall, had a chance to put this team away last night in Ocean State, could not do it. Very similar situation, actually identical situation that they were in last year in this round of the playoffs. How has manager Eric Sorella tried to make this different than last year?
Well, the big thing he emphasized yesterday was the fact that this team has a deeper pitching staff than they did last year. So I think the big thing, I was talking to Coach Sorella before the game, and he was saying that as long as he can get a lot of good innings out of Ryan Gray tonight and then go to the bullpen after that, I think he'll be comfortable with tonight's ball game. All in all, it should be a good ball game for these Ocean State Waves who now with a lot more depth, this team is ready to go, and they're excited to take the challenge here at Cardines.
Matt, lefty-lefty matchup for at least 6 innings of this ball game unless they get to Ryan Gray early. What does Newport have to do differently against Gray than they didn't do in the beginning of Game 1?
You have to be more aggressive, but also if you're not going to be aggressive, swing at the first or second pitch, you have to actually work a count. In that first game, Newport made Ryan Gray throw very few pitches, and they were grounding out, they were popping out. They just weren't having regular Newport Gulls at bats that we've been accustomed to seeing. And I don't know if that was just because they were lackadaisical in that early afternoon game, but something needs to change on the offensive side. Newport's offense just wasn't the same as what we've seen. Even in their losses over the last week, they were a much better offensive team than they showed in that 7-inning game that Ryan Gray started. So I think with Shea Donlin back in the lineup, as he should be today, he'll bring some more patience and he'll bring some more base running to this team, because they only mustered 3 hits in that game, only 2 against Gray, and 1 was only a hit because it hit off Ryan Gray's back. So it's going to be a really tough game hitting-wise, but if you can work some counts, maybe you can scratch together a few base runners, get Gray uncomfortable enough to maybe give up a run early, and if you can get that run early, you have to try to step on their throats.
Tim Scott, keys to the game for the Ocean State Waves here. Game 3, winner go home. They will go on to play the Mystic Schooners if they win here tonight, but they have to get by the Newport Gulls through 9. What do the Ocean State Waves have to do to not repeat history here tonight at Cardines Field?
Well, in that Game 3 last summer, it was a pitching breakdown that resulted in the Newport Gulls to score 9 runs in that ball game. I think the big thing for the Waves is to really get behind Ryan Gray with the bats. The Ocean State Waves in that ball game against the Newport Gulls last Thursday only racked together 9 hits, 7 runs. So if the Ocean State Waves can get on a roll, notably in the middle of the order with Dylan Bordeaux, Chucky Robinson, Tim Lynch, if they can put it all together, and plus the other people in the lineup such as A.J. Ramirez, Jake Palamaki, if all those guys can continue their hot hitting in the postseason, then that'll be key. I mean, everything has to come together for these Waves, and they're excited for the challenge.
Matt Tonis, your analysis here for the Newport Gulls and their keys to winning tonight and going on to the Southern Division Championship Series.
Play Newport Gulls baseball, solid pitching, great defense, getting deep in counts, getting contact, just making sure the batting order plays the way you want it to. Speed up top, power in the middle, everything at the bottom. It did well for them last night, and the Newport Gulls want to carry that forward, try to get a couple extra base hits, score an early run or 2. And I think that'll really carry you a long way.
The Newport Gulls take on the Ocean State Waves. It is Game 3 of the NECBL Southern Division semifinals. I will have the call alongside Tim Scott and Matt Tonis tonight starting at 6:35, but much more to come here on the Newport Gulls pregame show as it continues next on the NECBL Broadcast Network.